case today is your first day, on Monday, the first day of the workshop, we talked about your vision and why is your vision so important? Why is it such a key foundational piece to your childcare center and your professional success, not just your childcare center? And I really dived deep into how that's really going to be your career success, right? It's not just your center, but what is your life mission and goal? And how can that really play out into your overall career? So that was Monday. Yesterday, we talked about your culture of your center and why is the culture so important. Why is it that the culture is going to become your brand? It will become your reputation. It's going to really drive what people say about you and what they think about your center, right? So we talked about culture yesterday. Today, we're talking about the one thing everybody wants to know more about, especially today. In today's day and age, hiring in COVID is really hard. So, we're talking about creating your dream team with the team you already have. I'm not going to go into too much of the summary since we're talking about that today. And then tomorrow, I'm going to talk about your systems, your processes, the business structure. Why is it so important to have a business structure, right? So many of us out there don't even know that what a business structure should look like. You guys don't know what an organizational chart is. Yesterday, I taught you guys what a KPI is. You don't know things like that. You don't know how to read a profit loss statement. You don't know what a balance sheet is. All of that is vitally important to your center's success. We often think that I know how to run household finances, I'll know how to run business, but they are two completely separate things. I'll give you guys a quick example. Business credit, for example. In our households, we always strive to have no debt, right? We want to be debt free. We don't want to have debt in our lives. But in business, debt isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? We always want to be debt free, but having loans isn't always quite the same as it is at home. Having some liabilities isn't quite as bad as it is in your own personal finances. When you're building your business credit, it's actually important to have certain liabilities. So a lot of things that we as ECE professionals don't know. We go into ECE as owners and directors because it is our passion. It's what we love. It's what we're passionate about, right? But we don't know anything about the business of it. And then we try to run centers by ourselves, right? So you might have an owner and a director who both don't know how to run a business. And they're trying to run this business because bottom line is it is a business. A lot of times we don't like to think of our centers as businesses, but they are. And if you're going to get to the next level, if you're going to have a successful childcare center, you have to see your center as a business. And then on Friday, we're going to talk about what my queen bee role at my center is, high quality standards. And even if you don't choose quality as your queen bee role in your childcare center, you still need to know and you still need to strive for high quality. First of all, it's what the children deserve. We chose to be in an industry that focuses on children. So our main focus and our responsibility is to those children, first and foremost, right? Secondly, it really will make the difference and make you more successful. I talked to you guys about those three components, my KPIs that I rate my center on, which is enrollment, retention, and quality, right? And these are all things are measurable. My enrollment is measurable, my quality is measurable, my reputation, that is all measurable, right? So those are the three things that I'm measuring, and quality is huge. It's actually going to be at the core of all of this. So even if you don't choose quality as your queen bee, and if you don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about the queen bee, watch yesterday's video. I explained to you guys how I've taught my staff that we have our queen bee. It's our superpower, right? Sometimes I call it our superpower, but we call it the queen. It's the queen bee role in the center. And our high quality research-based standards are our queen. So watch yesterday if you don't know. Let's see. Shailyn says, this has been amazing. Well, thank you, Shailyn. I do appreciate the love there. Thank you so much. Let me go back and there we go. So thank you. I do appreciate it. So today I'm not going to waste too much of your guys' time. I'm just going to get straight into it again. And we're going to talk about the pillars that I use to create my dream team. And I'm going to tell you guys a story. Again, I love the stories, right? Just what I've learned in my life. I've been an owner and a director for many, many years. I've been in this field a long time. So I've learned a lot of tough lessons, right? And there's a lot of times it's kind of funny because usually I learned the right way of doing things because I did it the wrong way and I had to come up with a better solution. So a lot of what I'm hoping to bring you is avoiding the mistakes that I have made, right? If I can bring it to you and say, hey, look, I tried it this way, wasn't so great. Look, this way was awesome. Then hopefully it'll help you just kind of fast forward through some of those hardships that I've been through. So, basically, I had a staff meeting one year, and this was the same year. I told you guys, I think it was yesterday, about how there was a point in my career where I was walking through my childcare center and I just would look around and I was so disappointed. And I just had this feeling that I need to fire them all. They all suck. They're horrible. I've got this awful staff. They just need to all go. I need to start from scratch. Why can't I find people? All these thoughts would go through my head. Why can't I find people who are useful? Everybody I hire is useless. What is wrong with these people? What is, why? And I blamed it on everything. I can't pay enough. I can't afford to pay them enough. I don't have benefits. People just don't want to work anymore. And I hear it today all the time, right? Unemployment pays so much more. It's hard to get people to work, which is true. I'm not going to, it's been difficult for all of us. That has been difficult. But when push came to shove, I realized that a lot of the arguments I was using are not valid. It's not that I can't afford to pay enough. It's not that I didn't have benefits. None of that is true. And I can tell you that, and I know for a fact because I've tested it, the same staff, about 50% of my staff are the same people that I had then when I used to walk in my building and have the thoughts that I need to fire them all. They're all useless. I cannot seem to find good people to work for me. And all those excuses I had, they are the same people that work for me today. When I talk about Brandy and Alana have always been stellar employees, but these are the same group of people. They've been with me for 10 plus years, right? So what changed? Why is it that these people that I thought were subpar, mediocre, and even, to be honest with you, sometimes I thought they were awful employees, not just mediocre, but awful. How is it that those same employees now comprise my dream team? And I can tell you that it was me. It wasn't them. It was me as a leader. It was never my team. I placed a lot of blame on them, but it was my lack of leadership, my lack of knowledge on how to run a business and how to be a leader that was producing a poor team. It wasn't them. So I'm going to go through and really just dive deep. An hour doesn't give me a whole lot of time. Well, about 40 minutes doesn't give me a whole lot of time to deep dive into this, but I'm going to give you guys a bird's eye view. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you this morning? I miss you guys. We got to chat one day. You guys have to schedule a time with me. But basically, the first thing that I did is I realized that I have to create systems that are duplicatable. I really started researching how to run effective businesses. And there's a couple books that I ended up reading that were just transformational for me. And basically, if you see the books today, they're just highlighted and notes, sticky notes coming out of them and everything. I think the best one that I read was by Kelly Roach, who is actually now my business coach. Also, I ended up hiring her, working with her, but which is Creating Your Dream Team. And then also, of course, Mike Michalowicz has some amazing books. All his books are great. The Profit First books that he wrote. There's so many, you guys, but I've read all his books. So those are basically, and there's so much more. There's just Simon Sinek is another amazing author when it comes to teams and leadership. But what it came down to, the one consistent thing, whether it was Mike Michalowicz, Kelly Roach, Simon Sinek, reading all of these books on teams and how to be an effective leader, everybody had the same thing. You have to have systems that are documented and duplicatable. You basically have to learn how to duplicate yourself. But you also have to do that by knowing your team's assets and playing on their strengths. So, what I've created is a duplicatable system. And if you're one of my members, you guys have all of this. I've actually provided this for all of you. There's in your memberships, in our membership site, there's a training and all the documentation that goes with it. So basically, when it comes to this duplicatable system, I've created training manuals. And a lot of times when you guys see manuals, you look at a manual and it's like a bunch of stuff that you read, you hand it to the employee, you tell them to read it, they're good to go. Well, whoever actually reads those, I know with every job I've never read an employee handbook. I've never read a manual. They don't read it. We don't read it. So I took that one step further and I created daily trainings that my new hires have to do every day for the first 30 days. And then I have a system where for the first 6 months, they're going to be in this training program, right? I take that further, and every other year, my staff has to go through some kind of training. This isn't your normal everyday ECE training. This is how do I want my center ran training? How is zooming around? What are my standards? When and everything, you guys, I have a documented policy and procedure for everything that you deal with, including wiping tables. How do I expect my staff to wipe the tables? Right? It is documented. You're to spray with, I don't remember offhand, which is why it's documented, but the soapy water, bleach, let the bleach stand for 10 minutes. It's documented. Diapering procedures, documented and posted. 8 steps to diapering, right? So everything, how do you put the children down for nap? How do you conduct yourself on the playground? And let me give you guys playground as a good example, because playground is probably where I see the most chaos in a center and where I think we have a lot of problems with teachers thinking that playground time is break time, right? I'm sure we all think that, or you guys all have that problem where the children go outside and they suddenly think that the 2 times a day, nap time and playground time, those are the times that staffing tends to think they're on their breaks, right? So with our playground time, we have our procedures. This is going to be a focus of one of my new hire trainings on how do you conduct yourself when you're on the playground. And we go through there's 3 stations. The way that my playground is set up, we have 3 different stations. And within those stations, we have, they're actually, and it doesn't have to be overly complicated. We just got a piece of paper, says station 1, big bold print, laminated it. Station 2, laminated. Station 3, and then we went in different parts of the fence and hung them up. That's it. So each teacher knows, and there's little instructions on them, but we also train on this. Each teacher knows that if you're the only teacher out there, you stand in station 1. If there's 2 of you, you stand in 1 and 2. When there's 3, there's 1, 2, and 3. And basically, there's a proximity area, okay, that each teacher is in charge of this specific proximity. And we do have it documented, right? There's like little, signage that shows the teachers, like teacher 1, you're in charge of this. Teacher 2, you're in charge of this. Teacher 3, you're in charge over here. My playground is an L, so I'm literally showing you guys. But, and basically we also have the procedures that whatever children are playing in station 1, if you're teacher 1, then your responsibility is to facilitate the learning, to facilitate different things, bring science, bring math, you're not necessarily bringing out different objects and whatnot. It's not necessarily a planned out activity, but you know how the children are. There is always something to teach them, whether it's the clouds in the sky or a bug walking on the playground that they're interested in, or maybe they're just running up and down the slide. Let's talk about gravity, right? But we train our teachers on this so that they are constantly engaging with the children. They're constantly playing, engaging, facilitating learning. That is the most important thing. But this is something that has to be taught. And I used to go out into my playground and think, why do these teachers just stand around? They just stand over here and they congregate, they chat, they're gossiping all day. Why can't they just go and be with the children and facilitate? And one day, it was actually one of my coaches told me, because you've never taught them. That's why. When have you ever taught them? And I basically came back to her and said, well, I go out there and model it all the time. And she said, well, do they know you're modeling? Do you just go out there and do it? Or do you tell them, watch me, I'm about to model for you how to facilitate learning on the playground. I want you to learn. Or do you just go out there and do it? And I realized, oh, I do. I just go out there and do it. So that's where I kind of started realizing the problem is within me, not them, right? So now we have a system that is basically based on coaching and mentoring, not just training. And I'll get back to that in a little bit, but those systems that are duplicatable. So what I just explained to you guys is my playground system, right? And it gets more in depth than what I just explained. Just gave you a bird's eye view, but we have a system for everything: nap time, snack time, circle time, curriculum time, any kind of conflict resolution. We have documented systems to deal with everything. An angry parent, a lost coat, lost socks, whatever it is, right? We have policies and procedures for that. We have a procedure, it is documented, and we train on it. So that is the first and foremost thing. Basically, what you do is you follow yourself around and you document everything you do. Every situation that comes up. And it took me years to finish this, you guys. This is why I offer this in my coaching program now, because I literally took 10 years worth of scenarios. As I went through, I would document, this is what happened. I need to come up with a procedure, constantly coming up with procedures, right? If you guys were with me during COVID, you saw how I do it. COVID hit, I just went straight into action, came up with my policies and procedures for COVID. Yes, I did have to change it here and there. I did have to tweak it a little bit, but I just came up with, this is exactly how we're going to do it, step by step. And to the point that my state here in Nevada actually ended up using it and distributing it to all child care centers in the whole state, because that's what I do. Every time something comes up, I create documented procedures and I train on them. And now every new hired staff that comes in is also going to be trained on it, right? And that's why my new hire training is 6 months long. But it doesn't happen. It is on the job training where they're working. And during the course of the day, as things arise, right? Something happens. That's when we pull out, you have a biter. Well, let me show you what we do. Let me pull out, these are our policy procedures on biting. This is how we deal with it. Here are the steps. So next time I want you to go through, and I might have you do actually have one of my first, I'll have a seasoned teacher model for them the steps, and then they have to practice it. So that's where training and coaching come in so important. It's huge. I did a research study, it was years ago, but basically the data was showing, and it was through TAXI's program, that 85% of what people learn in a training will be forgotten. 85%. 15% will be remembered, but only about 3% is actually ever implemented. So even this training that you guys are doing today, you're only going to take back 3% of the whole week that I'm doing and actually put something into action. That's why I started a coaching program, because that 3% actually flips and turns into 85% if you do it with coaching. If you take a training and they get coached on it afterwards, you are more likely to implement 85% instead of 3%. So that's why for your staff, you send them to trainings and you wonder why. I put them through all this training, I do all of this, but then nothing happens. Nothing changes. That's why they're not getting coaching. Coaching is the key. You've got to coach your staff. Let's see. This is all in the files in this group. It's in our membership group files. So yes, and anything you guys need for my members, if there's anything, I know there's so many files, just email me or message me on Facebook. You can also message Pam, my assistant, to make sure I actually get it. And because you guys know, like, I'm so busy, sometimes it takes me forever, but we'll make sure you get any of those documents. If you don't want to go thumbing through all the files, just let me know. Like if you need the biting, I can just send you. Every one of my procedures has its own separate file. So I do put it in the my handbooks, but they also have their own separate file. So if you need them quickly, like if we need them at Zooin quickly, we just print it, take it over there. People forget, and that's natural, right? There's certain things that we don't deal with a lot, like maybe a divorced parent situation where the parent lost custody. That's not something we deal with every day. So even if a parent or teachers are trained on it, if we only deal with it once every few years, then they're going to forget. So that's something you can really quickly grab it, say, hey, here are our procedures, right? This is how we deal with this situation. So there are certain things, but so I do have it organized where we can just pull it really fast. But the next thing, so just now I basically explained to you onboarding. Onboarding is huge. Also, it's part of those systems that are duplicatable. Think in terms of duplicating yourself, right? That's what you're trying. You are creating a user's manual for you in your professional. How would you conduct yourself in the classroom? And also onboarding. You want to make sure you onboard people. According to the studies done by several different Fortune 500 companies, if you want to retain your employees, you have to make them feel like they're part of your center's culture. That is so very important, right? And so in order for them to become a part of your center's culture, they have to be onboarded correctly. That's why my onboarding process is 6 months long. And that's why we do monthly checkups with every single one of our teachers. You want to make sure it really does take work to keep your staff. Let's see. I've got a question. Where would I start to come up with all of these procedures? What's a good starting point? I would take your biggest pain points. In order to start, what I would do is literally grab a blank piece of paper and think to yourself, what are the biggest problems that you're always interfering with? What brings you to the classroom the most, right? And if you're one of my members, I have all of this done for you already. I give you all of mine. You guys have it. Just tweak it to make it your own. You can just literally change my wording to make it your own. Can you tag me? Yes, Shylin, I will tag you in days 11 through 30. And I can send it to you directly. So yeah, because day 11 through 30 is when we really get into the nitty gritty. But that's where I would start, is look at your biggest pain points. For you as a leader, you shouldn't be spending so much time in the classrooms. If you are, then your staff doesn't have training. They don't know what they're doing well enough. So what I would do is make a list of what is bringing you to the classrooms the most. What are you getting the most parent complaints about? What do you as management have to interfere in the most? And that's where you want to start. And that's where you want to document your policies and procedures. But more importantly than documenting it, you want to have a way to train them on it. That's even more important. And it needs to be something interactive that they're actually, it's like, think of on-the-job training. So as this problem's occurring, I have like steps that they are to follow. So I literally give them sheets every day for their first 30 days. They have a worksheet they have to do. And it's going to walk them through, like, go and find a child that you can have a conversation with. Start asking them leading questions, right? And it'll actually walk them through. So that is key. I don't, and the glows and, yes, I've got to get you that glows and grows sample. Shylin, will you message me those two things so I don't forget? Otherwise I'll forget. Seeing them here, I'll remember, but as soon as I log off, I'll forget. So if you can message that to me, that'd be great. So basically that's where I would start. Just make sure that you have a very interactive way. You don't want to just type up procedures and hand it to your staff because they'll never read it. It's going to get filed and they'll never read it. So that's what I would really just encourage. So I talked about coaching, but the next step after coaching is going to be mentoring. Mentoring is also very important. And I often get the question, what is the difference between being a coach and being a mentor, right? The roles are very similar, but when you become a mentor, you're really going to get your staff's loyalty, because when you become a mentor, you're going to kind of step back and no longer look at what's best for you, but you're really going to start looking at what's best for them. And you're going to help them grow. One of my biggest passions is to help women realize that they can be more. Right. And I'm going to talk to you guys about recruiting in a little bit, but I focus on a recruiting model. I don't hire anymore. I recruit. And through this recruiting model, one of the things I like to target are stay-at-home moms, right? And basically, these are women who don't see a career path for themselves normally. They don't see themselves as professional. So when I bring them into my center, I can show them that they can do both. They can be a professional woman while being a great mom. They can balance that, right? And I empower them by putting them through things like the CDA program, through college, through whatever I need to do. But I lift them up and I help them see who they can be. A lot of times people get so stuck thinking that they have to take minimum wage jobs and that's all they can do because they're trying to be mom, they're trying to be so much. They don't have time for an education, they don't have time for this and that. So being a mentor is doing all the things I already just talked to you guys about coaching, but it's also helping people to see their true potential. It's helping them to see that they are more than they ever thought that they could be, right? And that is one of my biggest passions, is taking women and helping them to see that this box that they had put themselves in isn't true. They can be so much bigger, so much more, right? They can have a career. Yes, that means oftentimes they move on. Yes, that means oftentimes they outgrow me. I don't have enough spaces for them to grow to all the time, right? I only have so many director positions. I only have so many assistant directors. So yes, it means they sometimes grow, hit a glass ceiling and move on. And you have to be okay with that, because the bottom line is I'm out there to show them what is best for them, not as what's best for me. And sometimes my center isn't going to be what's best for them. But I can also tell you guys that when you come from this type of attitude where you're really looking at what is best for my staff and not just me, it is a game changer. They become so incredibly loyal to you that even when they don't work for you, they're volunteering. And that's something I've gotten for years. My staff that doesn't work for me will still volunteer. They still come in to help. Anything happens, they are right there by our side, right? The 4th of July is a great example. I saw one of my ex-staff members and she asked, she's like, hey, I would still love to work with you guys on the parade. Can we do this? And I'm like, absolutely. I had another staff member who used to volunteer for every single special event. She actually became an RN. And even with her career, like she got a great job as an RN, she's doing amazing. But even with her career going, she still came and volunteered at every single event that my center held. And she didn't have any children at my center. She just came and helped out anyway. So when you help to empower them, yes, sometimes they're going to move on, but the loyalty you get is next level. And the ones who stay with you are lifers. They're absolute lifers because you help them to see that they could be so much more than who they thought they could ever be, right? So let's see. Oh, yes, Thailand. I love it. I'm going to have to show everybody this comment, right? So Shailyn says, if you're not a member, you need to be. This is the best membership group I've ever been involved in. Thank you, Evan. Well, thank you, Shailyn. I really do appreciate that. I really do try hard for my members. So if you're not a member, let us know. You can message me or my assistant, Pam, and we can talk to you more about becoming a member of my membership program. And I actually have my notes are like right in the way of my comments. So I have to kind of keep moving them to look. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about recruiting, because I think recruiting is what most of you guys came in here for. Whenever I say something like, I don't hire, I recruit, everybody's like, well, I need to know, what do you do? How do you recruit? It's really simple. But it goes back to what I was talking about yesterday and on Monday. And I'm sorry, I have to take a sip of my tea. I'm losing my voice here. But basically, with recruiting, you really need to know your vision and you need to know your values. So when it comes to recruiting, this is where your values are going to come into play. If you don't have a workbook yet, let us know. Give us your email address in the comments, or we can message you, or you can message us. Let us know. Pam, I can have Pam just comment in here really quick so that you guys can message her. She can send it over to you. The reason this is important is in our workbook, I have an area in there for you where I'm asking you to tell me what your values are. What are your core center values? You need to make this very clear, because when you're out recruiting people, you need to be recruiting the people that match those values. If you're recruiting people who aren't matching your values, you're not going to be retaining. So you're going to have this off-kilter center with all these different values, and you're going to have people who are not going to buy into your vision. So the way we do our recruiting, and my staff is trained on this too. So your teachers, everybody can get involved. When you're out in the world and you see different people, and it can be other family members. I try to stay away from other family, but sometimes it does work out. It can just be people, a waitress that you know, your favorite restaurant you go to a couple days a week is the same waitress every day. She's very consistent. She's great with your personal children. She has this wonderful rapport. You see absolute consistency. She's on top of things. Strike up conversations with her. Ask leading questions that'll just really, help you to understand their core values, right? One of the places I used to love to recruit was my church, because you've got Sunday school teachers, and these Sunday school teachers, you can see, how do they interact with the children? How do they view discipline and guidance, right? You're seeing these things actually happen. The other place that I like to recruit is the schools. When you go, if you're dropping off and picking up children, or if you have your own children, you're involved in PTA or whatever, look at the moms that are around you, right? My favorite demographic to recruit are stay-at-home moms. Your stay-at-home moms that might be your customers. They may be your customers. They may be moms that you see at the park. They may be, when you guys go on field trips. Watch these stay-at-home moms, right? For a while, I was allowing mom groups to come into my center after hours and on the weekend. I was allowing them to use my center as just a play place, right? Just as a community service. Part of what helped with that is that you get to see a lot of stay-at-home moms in this area. The thing about stay-at-home moms, and I can tell you from experience, because this was me. I was a stay-at-home mom for about 8 years. And one of the, and during the time I sold Avon, and I actually built a pretty big Avon empire during the time. And the reason I did was, I went to drop my son off at school one day. He was in the first grade, and I had my infant. My other son was just a baby, and my oldest son was in the first grade. And I went to drop him off, and everybody around me was really excited. Hi, Bronson's mom. Hi, Bronson's mom. And everybody just referred to me as Bronson's mom. And, that was great. No problem. But I went from there to visit my husband at work. And as I got into my husband's job, everybody came over to, oh, hi, Evelyn. Or it was, hi, Ronnie's wife. Hi, Ronnie's wife. And I just over and over, like literally back to back, these two things happened where I was Bronson's mom or Ronnie's wife. But I realized nobody knows my name. I don't have my own name anymore. Here I am at home all the time, and I'm going into Bronson's world through school. I'm going into Ron's work and his world. So I was Ron's wife or Bronson's mom, but I didn't feel like I had a name anymore. The places I went, right? Even when I went to church, I was a Sunday school teacher, and I noticed that people didn't really know my name. I felt like I don't have a name anymore. I've just become, I don't know. So that's when I decided I have to do something for me. I have to do something that is mine. Bronson has school, Ron has work. I'm just here. I no longer have an identity of my own. So I started selling Avon. I found something, right, that I could have that was mine. So I can tell you guys from my experience, that's what stay-at-home moms are feeling. They want something of their own. They think that they can't do anymore. They feel like they want to be great moms, right? We want to be great moms, but we also want something for ourselves. And not all of them. I know this isn't true 100% of the time, but I can tell you a good portion of the time, this is true. So when you recruit stay-at-home moms and you show them that they can have more, they can juggle it all, right? And yes, you do have to adapt a lot of times, because you're going to, they still want to be with their children, right? So I do adapt schedules to make sure they can be there for their children after school or before school, or we do a lot of juggling for them. We do. And not all my staff are stay-at-home moms. Let me just, there are, of course, others. So otherwise you can't fill a whole center. But this is just an example of a portion that I would recruit, right? Well, and I'll tell you too that what ends up happening is the children grow up. As these stay-at-home moms stay with you and the children grow, they want a career. So you really nurture them into being those people. Like I talk to you guys about Alana all the time, my assistant director. Alana was a stay-at-home mom that came to work for me, that didn't have to work, right? But she came to work for me, and now she's been with me for almost 13 years. So now her children are much older. They don't need her so much anymore. And now she's in training to be my next director. So as these people, so what I want you guys to really think about too is so many of you guys are so stuck on hiring today. You're not looking at the future, right? So when you're recruiting, you want to look at how can I develop this person to be the teacher I need them to be? How can I develop them, right? So for me, and I can tell you guys, all of the studies I've done, one of the key reasons that I am successful in all my ventures is because I never focus on today. I'm always looking at 5 to 10 years down the road. I'm always in my future planning, right? So when you're recruiting, don't be so afraid that, yes, they're only going to want to work from 9 to 2 because there's kids have to be dropped off and picked up. And if you do drop off and pick up, drop them off and pick them up for them. They're still there with their babies, right? You're just empowering these women to see something they didn't see. So even girls straight out of high school, I love hiring high school students and girls straight out of high school because they don't know what they're going to do with their life yet. And you can be there to mentor them, to help them. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes children isn't their niche, and that's okay, right? But sometimes it does. And when you develop these young ladies and help them to see their potential, and you sell them on your vision, when you help them that their life's mission becomes yours, it's aligned. Their mission is your vision, right? They stick with you. They stay loyal. This is why even when they move on, so many of my staff members still reach out to me all the time. I hear from them a few times a year just to see, how are things going? Some of them are moved across the country. I still hear from them on a regular basis because I help them to see that there is more, that they can be more, that they can have careers, they can be a great mom, and they can have something for themselves. It's not just about their families, right? Because bottom line, I grew up watching my mom, who was an awesome, amazing mom, but she had nothing for herself. Your children grow up and they leave you one day. And what are you left with? Right? So deep down, we all want something for us. If you can be the person, find those ladies out there who may not necessarily be looking for a job, but they do want something for them. And you help empower them. You help them buy into your vision. You give them a life's mission. Doesn't matter how much they make, they don't care. It doesn't matter, what you're giving them something that they haven't had. So I hope that makes sense. You just, and that's also how you're going to mentor and become an inspirational leader, right? So you're not necessarily looking for people who are looking for jobs. You're talking to people who don't know that they want to work, or you're helping them to see what they could have, right? So let's see. And do you give tuition discounts for employees? I do. My employees get, I have a sliding scale for employees. And I'll tell you guys, once upon a time, I tried to give free childcare to employees. I've tried to really just bend over backwards because I didn't have health insurance or anything else. And I had 17 staff kids at one point, and it really came to bite me. So I had to really come up with a concrete policy. It's really important to know what your break-even point is in your classrooms. And what this means is how much does it cost you per child to run the room? You need to know for every single classroom. And this isn't what I'm teaching on today, but I'm just going to give you a bird's eye view of how you want to come up with your employee discount. You need to know per classroom, how much does every child cost? This isn't something that's as simple as saying, okay, I have 150 children enrolled. My total bills are this divided by 150. This is what it is. It doesn't work that way. It's not that easy. You have to look at, I have 6 infants. This room costs me this much to run. Payroll costs this, their portion of the utilities, their portion of my rent payment, this divided by 6. Right? So infants are going to cost a lot more than a before and after school child or a 4-year-old. So then once you know what your break-even point is, that's how you're really going to start establishing your tuition for your employees. So you basically, for me, I go with my break even point. That's it. At this point, also, to make it easy, I do have like 50% for everything for children under like under two, not two and under, just under two. Basically, they're going to pay my break even, but everybody else is going to pay 50% of the tuition cost for the first child, for their children, right? After 2 years of employment, they're going to get one free child. And then basically after 5 years, they get two, and so on. The reason I do the after 2 years of employment is usually they're going to have the child when they work. And it's also the free child is always going to be the oldest. Any discounts or anything I give is going to be off the oldest child. The reason I do 2 years is because most people are already going to have that baby, right, before they come to work for you. So by the time they hit 2 years, the baby's going to be two at least, because you cannot. And there is a disclosure I have where I can't give away free childcare for babies. You'll never make money. And you will be in a position like I was eventually, where you have something, 17 employee kids. Think about that. That's a lot of employee kids. You can't. So one of the things I see in a lot of owners that are really struggling is that they're giving away the house. Way too many discounts. I see military discounts, multi-child discounts, monthly paying discounts, just all these discounts. And and then you've got you're over discounting your staff, and you're discounting yourself in bankruptcy, basically. So that's where it's very, very important to know what is your break even. This is the minimum I have to make per child just to pay the bills. That's it. And you don't want to go below that. You want to at least break even. So let's see. Tiffany asks, with stay-at-home moms, do you offer discounts for childcare? I do. Absolutely. Yep, they're going to get a discount. And remember, they're already paid. So a lot of times I like to recruit stay-at-home moms that are already in my program. They may not always be, but they're already probably paying tuition, right? So any kind of discount is going to be great, and any kind of income. Let me also say, if there's somebody that I really, really, really want, right? If I really want them, and this actually happened to us recently, where Brandy actually recruited somebody she found in one of her van runs who turned out to be a stellar employee, but she also has 4 children. And so is somebody with 4 children going to come work for me? No. So you can individualize contracts, right? And also remember, when you're giving staff discounts, you also have to remember that you can do a trade-off, right? Let's say, for example, that at the end of the day, you're giving them $50 in free tuition. You can do that in forms of pay instead. It doesn't have to be tuition discount, but you want to, and let them know, hey, I can't give you free, but instead I'm going to pay you an extra $1 an hour, right? And you can really make that to your advantage, but help them to see and understand that it's the same thing. Money out of their pocket, in their pocket, is no different, right? And that goes the same way on the opposite end. So many staff that you're giving discount to, they look at their paychecks, I'm only making $10 an hour. But then they don't see, but I just got credited $150 worth of tuition. How much does that really, and just to make it even, let's say you credited them $160 on an 80-hour paycheck. That's $2 an hour. That is the equivalent of $2 an hour. You want to make sure your staff sees and understands that and knows that, because a lot of times they don't get that. And so they are always thinking they make so much less, but in reality, they went to go get another job, they'd have to make quite a bit more. So that is, something to think about, but back to the subject I'm talking about. Sorry, guys. Just being that inspirational leader. In order to create a dream team, you have to become an inspirational leader. That's the bottom line. You can do things outside of the box, like recruiting. You have to have those systems. You have to have a great onboarding. You've got to become a coach. But I think more importantly, you've got to become a mentor if you really want to retain and have that staff. And if you want people to want to work for you, basically. So that is basically let's see, do you raise their tuition in that case? Yes. Okay, so yes. So in the case of like the mom that we really wanted to come to work for us who had 4 children, she's going to be paying that full tuition, right? But she's making more. So at the end of the day, and where you have to be careful is you don't want to give this person free childcare while this person who's been working for you for 3 years doesn't have free childcare, something like that, right? But there's other ways to manipulate that. There are ways to manipulate it. Think about the bottom line amount of money that this employee is going to cost you and your center. It doesn't matter if it's coming from their paycheck or if it's coming from tuition, right? And actually, a lot of times, your paycheck is going to benefit you as an owner or a director because that is basically a write-off. Their paychecks is something that is going towards your expenses. Tuition is actually something that's like income, right? So it's that balance that is, it's just that balance. But at the end of the day, for your center's bank account, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference if you give someone an extra $3 an hour, if that's the equivalent of what you would be giving them for free childcare. Let me qualify that though. There is one difference. What you have to be careful for is employer taxes, right? So if you're paying someone, let's say $10 an hour, it's actually costing the employer more like $12 an hour, $11 to $12 an hour, depending on what state you're in, right? So that's where you do have to be careful for that. You always have to add, in general, I add about 20%. So when you're figuring this out, right, just kind of whatever you're thinking about adding. If you're thinking, I'm going to give her an extra $2 an hour because I'm going to charge her full rate for, but that's going to be a wash. You're trying to make it a wash for the employee, but you have to be careful for the center because of employee taxes. Employers' taxes can be where that bites you. So a general rule of thumb, though, is just add 20%. And that should help you to figure out exactly what you're paying out. So you guys, I am over time. And I do have another meeting to go. I have a client to work with right after this. So I'm going to have to end this here. I hope this was helpful. If you guys have more questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I can jump on later and just answer some of your questions in the chat. Also, on Monday, I am going to be opening my office hours just to everybody. So you guys are going to have a chance to log on Monday. It's 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Which is 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock Eastern time. So you guys can just jump on my office hours and just pick my brain. That's it. So, but for now, if you guys want to put your questions, I know I'm kind of ending this abruptly since I'm going over time. Just let me know your questions. And I hope you're with us tomorrow when we talk about, I'm going to go much more into depth into the how to create your program structure. So have a great rest of your day, everybody.